Ah, hello everyone. It's Harry here from Two Guys T and D. Alone again, but they're not. Lionel and I should get together once again once our schedules sort of line up. Today is going to be a world building video. So I'm planning at least on starting the sort of main creation of my cyberpunk theme world called SPIRE. I'm just going to share the link and whatnot. Let's see. Let's hope that's the right link. Oh, I need to do that pop-out chat thing. Okay. So, share my screen. So yeah, this Spire thing is I'm not really quite sure yet, but I'm thinking like some kind of like dark cyberpunk. It's like a tiered city with a sort of like Underdark-esque area underneath, and then like a normal sort of streets above kind of thing. Let me share one of the images that I created on Photoshop with my amateur art skills. Let's see, what does this look like in the actual thing? Excuse me for a moment while I get this working. Okay, doesn't look too bad. I might zoom in a little bit. So I think I'm just going to start with wherever my brain kind of takes me. Seeing if what I want to do. How do you zoom in on fucking? Oh god. Oh god. How do I do this? This is awkward. This is awkward. Oh my god. Help. Oh my god. I'm so dumb. Right. 250. Yeah, that looks a bit better. So let me pop this out actually. So I'm gonna keep on like sharing the fucking same thing. Cool. So I was thinking while eating my dinner today, this like area down the bottom of the spire, I've just named it the Undercity just for the moment. I'm sure I'll think of a cool name. But for the sake of like organization, just giving it that name works for the moment. I had this really cool idea that it's just this gigantic like scrap heap. Like all of the stuff that's up in this upper city, all of the rubbish that they create, the broken down machinery, the broken down cars, just bits and pieces from everyone's lives just get shoved down into this sort of under area. And having like the entire like base of this just be this one big scrapyard, rubbish heap, and just be filled with these like big and small like cleaning robots, which are just sort of constantly 24/7 just trying to clean this mess, but basically make no difference. And then eventually, be part of the scrap heap themselves when they break down, and just have people actually like combing the actual scrapyard for bits and pieces, like making cheap knockoff cybernetics which don't quite work, or trying to sell the scrap for whatever money they can make. And these are like the dregs of society, the sort of unwantables. But yeah, it's I don't really have all that much going on. I did a short video on this with Lionel a few weeks ago, and came up with a few things, but I've kind of like changed my mind about it. So if I can get Photoshop to actually be shared, which is a task in itself, just see if I can do it. I'd like to just not share properly. So let's do this. There we go. So I just made this a quick little collage of images. Try and like pick out the sort of the tone that I actually want from this. Because I love this image here. I love the sort of look of the high buildings and narrow streets still that are still sort of packed and glowing with adverts. And another image down in this corner of that sort of Japanese kind of influences, the police force with the katana and the smaller one I can't remember the name of, like sort of patrolling the streets. I'm definitely thinking the sort of one of the key aspects of not always key aspects of cyberpunk is that sort of can be that dystopia, that police state, the these always watching robots. I don't know if you can see that. That's yeah. This oh shit, I'm behind it on the layer. Let's fix that. Yeah, this area here, robot. I love that kind of look. They're sort of always just scanning around. Just delete that. So, I guess one part of this I want to think about is the kind of the tone, I guess, where that's sort of where I'm going to start and just build off of. Let me stop showing for a moment. And think about, oh, where's the chat? Okay, good. I think about where I want to take this this setting. Like tone, like consistent tone is really important in a setting. Without it, I think you get that sort of hodgepodge mishmash of everything. You're just sort of, it looks like you're just trying to please everybody, which I don't know. It's not particularly enjoyable to play in a setting which tries to make everyone happy, because it tends to make nobody happy. So what I want to try and get across in words is, let me reshare this screen so I can't get this thing working. Technology. Okay. Wonder if I can't have chat open at the same time. How does this look? Doesn't look too shabby. Okay. See if anyone joins. So I want that sort of, while it's going to be set in a different world to ours, I'm still going to take from cultures from this world, so I want that sort of multi. Let's just so I want multiculturalism. I want to mix in the sort of themes from the sort of Western and Eastern cultures, sort of American kind of feel. And then also the, I mean, I know Tokyo comes a lot in sort of cyberpunk literature and like comics and things like that. Because if you look at pictures of current day Tokyo, it looks very vibrant, very bright. Has that almost has that sort of cyberpunk tone that everyone's going for. That look of things like neon and loads of adverts and just tons of people. I think the sort of these kind of things will be above the ground in the sort of main part of this big city, where you're going to have things like street food, which is a big part of culture, like just food in general. I don't think you see enough of that in games. Like having tea shops like mixed in with, you know, next door might be some like burger joint, steak joint right next to a Japanese tea shop. And then you get like stands like selling noodles next to hot dogs, next to just big mash of cultures, which might not be to everyone's liking. Which is an interesting point of conflict you can bring up in games. So I think I want it to be fairly dark in tone. So things like big shadowy corporations, quote unquote, like doing experimentation. Like I have some ideas for sort of different classes that you might play in a game sense, a mechanical sense. As what it might not be the best game, but it's the most played. So I'd like to make this at least somewhat 5e compatible. So I want things like psionics to be around, but you know, rare, obviously. So things like precognition, retrocognition, so past and future, looking at past and future, like telekinesis, telepathy, those kind of things. Maybe they're, you know, created humans, like they're genetically engineered. Some secret gene has been discovered that blah 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 doesn't make sense in science, but whatever. Or maybe they're just rare random mutations throughout the population, and these corporations are trying to just take them, run tests, train them into being like super secret assassins, or using a precog to like look at stock, like future stocks, to knowing like when to shift your money at the right time, that kind of thing. Typical like corporation stuff, typical money stuff. That's usually the driver of most things in the society. And yeah. So it should be here too. So I don't, want it to be that sort of everything's lovely and colorful and nobody does anything and it's, everyone's nice. No, everyone's out for themselves. The upper echelons of society are just want to stay there, and so uh, I guess almost oppress the underclass. Oh god, trying to get that bounce from my keyboard. So I'm going to move on a little bit. Think about some mechanical aspects of this setting, this game, this whatever this is going to be. So I think this is how you spell it. Psionics. I want psionics to be a thing. So let me get some examples of this. So pre/retro cognition. Cognition, probably. Um, and I want possibly one telekinesis. Definitely love the sound of the first one. I know Marquise would like that as well. He does some awesome things when he plays Mystics. So if you ever get him in your game, let him play a Mystic if he wants to. He's awesome. And then telepathy. So speaking to people from a distance, maybe even producing images in their mind. Like, there's that character on Stranger Things which has that ability. I can't remember her name. Was she like number 9 or something? I can't remember her name. She has that cool ability of actually being able to like project images and make people think they're seeing things when they're not actually there. And I love that idea. There's a lot of things you can do with that. A lot of transferable mechanics which I can change a little bit and put them in. So I definitely want cybernetics or cyberware, however you want to say it. So things like prosthetics. I watch this. You're gonna have fun watching me not being able to spell anything. So enjoy that, everyone. So prosthetics, like cool, like replacement limbs, obviously, but replacement eyes. They may look like proper eyes, but maybe they've got like mechanical like irises which can make you focus even faster than normal. I think the human focusing time is like it's a third of a second or something, which is pretty quick. But I imagine if you had implants in your iris, you could drive that even quicker. I'm sure. Like in response to like flashbang or something, just have it like instantly close up, or like just way quicker reaction times. Or you could have it enhanced vision, like night vision, thermals, being able to like see in ultraviolet or see in infrared like thermals, would just be really cool. I think another thing that I want is some kind of like I think Stars on That Number has a really cool mechanic which sort of limits how they limit your psychic powers in that game. And also, I think some cyberware they've got in there as well, cybernetics. It's a mechanic called system strain. So sort of it's how much strain like you can just put on your body, be it through, you know, using your powers, or just having, one of your arms gone and replaced with a metal one, having, various metal implants in your spine so you can lift heavy things, having like subcutaneous wires which allow you to like hack into things just by touching them. It's just that idea of a sort of consequence of having these awesome things. Let's go back to themes, tones. So another big part of cyberpunk is that sort of feeling of is that sort of almost hatred of authority. The most of the characters you find in the literature is like hackers, cowboys, I think they're called in Neuromancer, or occasionally they're detectives, those sort of noir type themes that you get, like with Blade Runner as well, where he's searching for, like Harrison Ford is searching for, what are they called, replicants. Love it. That's sort of definitely one that divide between the schism. I think that's a word, right? Oh God, schism. That's a word. Yes. You a word? You a word? Are you spelt the right way? I have no idea. It's probably not spelled like that. I'll just put divide. I'll just divide. Um. Hmm. Hmm. So. Um. Hmm. I want to explore the themes of like transhumanism, and by that I don't mean transsexuals, transgender. I mean like artificial humans, and you know mostly like robot humans, that kind of thing. Maybe there should be a divide. Maybe those with at least visible cybernetic upgrades, augmentations, are really like looked down upon. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the pure humans are looked down upon. I kind of have this idea for the people at the top of these spires who live a life of luxury. If they lose a limb, they just have the technology to grow it back. Instead of having these big, metal things which leave a mark on your body, like it's technology that can go wrong. It can be hacked. Speaking of which, adding in some kind of hacking mechanic might be quite cool. Maybe three classes that I might make. would be a sort of normal like fighter, your hacker, and um, your what would be the word? Scion, psychic. Whatever, you're like mystic. Whatever, I can't think of a cool word for that right now. Vocabulary is not very good. I'll do. You'll know what I mean later. I'll know what I mean. I have maybe the fighter sort of have cool, allow them to have maybe more cybernetics, access to more. I definitely want cybernetics to be universal, because they're just cool. Fighter should be basic. You get that sort of archetype of tank, like support or support DPS. You know, the sort of fighter, cleric, wizard kind of thing. Although this is fighter, rogue, wizard. It was one of those sort of original threes. So the fighter definitely needs something to like pick him up, like with the Treader in Harbinger. They can do this really cool stuff, like making your gun like flare up with Astra and do way more damage. Cool things like that. Gonna just see how to make them interesting. Um, I do have another document which I just spewed forth ideas the other day. Let me go back to it. Yeah. So another one I want to explore is the idea of like overstimulation addiction. Um, Especially like our society. There's there's a lot of sort of overstimulation, I think, in our society. Like you see, you walk down the street. What are other people doing around you? They're all looking at their phones. They're all on Facebook. They're all on, Twitter. They're all on whatever social media they choose. People aren't, looking. People don't, they talk to each other. It's all, face to. It's not face to face anymore. It's it's always via a screen. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I would have, never met Lionel if it wasn't for the internet, for the magic of Facebook, for the for being able to, with Google Hangouts, being able to play with people from all over the world. Never would have happened without this. I think it's an interesting aspect to explore. Like you could look at things like virtual reality, which is beginning to get there with the technology now. Being sucked into these virtual worlds, which is so much better than the dark, dingy, horrible real world that they live in. People might get sucked in to these places, never want to leave. They might just there'd be places just filled with people just strapped to chairs with goggles on, just living a life, you know, in a computer. Um, and maybe there's some dark, nefarious thing behind it. knows? So yeah, so I think was it William Gibson coined the term of like cyberspace, which I think morphed into the Matrix. Um, should just be an interesting place to explore. I think it's one of those key aspects of um, cyberpunk, the whole genre. Um, and another part that I want to bring in is AI. Are they are they made? You know, are they programs? Are they programs, or perhaps like in Drake's Harbinger game, um, the which I can't remember the name of for the life of me. I will link it in the description if I remember. Definitely worth checking out. He sort of explores the idea of uh, sort of using humans and creating them into these sort of immortal AI-like beings. Because yeah, computers are really, really, really awesome at like calculations and things, but they they don't quite have making them like a human brain is extremely difficult. Um, like we can imagine, entire pictures of things with a just click of our fingers, and then we can imagine something. Imagination is a big part of being human, I think. Maybe something to explore, like, um, oh, geez, spelling. Hello. So I think I've got a decent stuff down for this theme, anyway. Definitely want corporatism, and I'll just put crime in there as well. Um, so I kind of want to go over the sort of different uh, areas of Spire. So the upper areas, the sort of middle, maybe I think mostly connected, sort of lower sort of street level, and what goes on in this dark, not so dark, underground, like what goes on there. These catwalks, these just filled columns. Like, do people live there? Is it purely just like pipes and gizmos and things just maintaining the city above? These where they keep the power plants, like the nuclear power plants powering everything. Um, why are they now holding up this city? Like, why are they like this? Um, Interesting to explore. So, um, right, let's just work on this little like uh, under city for now. Um, so, uh, so having this big scrap heap. This uh, yeah, scrap heap, which is massive, miles and miles across. You have, entire mountains made out of scrap and refuse and decaying food and all sorts of horrible, horrible things. So this place is going to be just heavily, heavily polluted. And maybe you could go the way of like Futurama with the like the mole people, the mutants living under in the sewers, where they've got these like extra eyes and extra arms. Maybe that could be something that occurs down there. These dregs of society that have sort of lived there, separated from the population above, have become sort of, reproductively isolated, to give it a biological term. Maybe they're sort of slowly diverging into its new, weird, twisted species. These dregs, mutants. They live purely off the sort of food waste and scrap material that is deposited from oh wow. So I love the idea of these sort of cleaning robots that are just doing their very best, trying their hardest to sort of like organize and get rid of the mess. Imagine like Wally. He's trying his very best by himself to like just clean everything, but it's obviously he's barely making a difference. Yeah. Yes. Spend entire like lifetimes of the like robots just they break down, they just add to the pile. And that's where the sort of juicy bits, the obviously really fairly high tech mechanical parts which the dregs can use. And maybe there's normal humans which try and make a living down here as well. Call them like scrappers or something. Jeez, that was today. So I think that's there's thinking in terms of a D&D game. You've got enemies possibly here. You've got perhaps cleaning robots gone rogue. Maybe they're trying to like just clean up everything down there. Some possible enemies here. You've got these scrappers. Maybe it's kind of giving off these Borderland vibes, which is never a bad thing. It's a good game. Set of games. So let's think more about the pillars, these support beams, these structures sort of holding up the city above. Columns. So I like the idea of them being populated. Obviously, not by the highest flyers of society. But I love the sort of the idea that they're just roads that sort of run like all the way around. Maybe not roads, but like streets Could be could be roads with like various ramps that sort of like crisscross their way like inside the actual column. Like I don't think these columns should be like solid. I think they should be like built into um like a big hive basically. Just you know catwalks, little thin little alleyways, um, which is like they've got a roof, they've got a floor, um, and just filled with the scum of the earth, really. So just a complicated sort of maze-like crisscrossing of streets and alleyways and sort of climb up and down at various points. Um, and how to like differentiate this from the just the main streets above? Obviously, it doesn't have a sky. Like it's going to be just this constant glow, and it's not going to be that bright either. um, so this idea may change. Maybe it might be a solid column with maybe like secret tunnels that go in there. Like there's a some society that locks itself away in there, and it's just a bunch of catwalks. Um, just this huge maze of catwalks. I put that in there. I'll maybe I'll make that later. Might be inspired by something. Catwalks and support beams and like maintenance. Oh shit, maintenance. That's not how you spell maintenance. Jesus, maintenance. Yeah, I can spell. Um, maintenance tunnels and shafts and things. Shafts. Um, so yeah, I like the idea of definitely criminal underworld, literally. Um, Police just don't bother penetrating down this far into the city anymore. Just basically would be a death sentence for them. Um, like guns, weapons running rampant in this place. Um, so let's think about the just the street level. Just the streets of Spire look like. So definitely surveillance, just like flying surveillance. I can't spell surveillance. Huh? Always flying around, always watching. Um, and obviously everything has just got to be neon signs, holographic adverts. I don't think I want like flying cars. I think things should still be street level. Like I love the idea of like different biker gangs and like like a gothic kind of like goth feel, not gothic, goth. But like cyber goth. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those. What cyber goths actually wear. Um, it's sort of lots of like pink and yellow and orange. But I think as a biker gang, they were pretty cool. Um, Play this as a game of microscope. That might be interesting. Um, oh, this needs to be a separate section. I just realized. For the sake of OCD, call this the in-between. This sort of area, sort of in this area here, the in-between the upper and lower, like what's it going to look like? Maybe it's just a big bunch of road, like a big road network of tunnels, where just everyone drives around in. A bit like there's tunnels in iRobot, where like everything's just whizzing, super fast. Like above ground, it's a bit more like New York. Lots of like gridded, like intersections and lots of traffic lights and stop and start traffic. It's once you've like built that kind of thing, it's really, really, really difficult to change it. So this sort of adds that layer of history into the city, which I think is needed. You just like cities need to have grown organically, otherwise they just feel like one person's built them. Like I'm hesitant to map this. I think it would be too difficult, and I I don't really have the time, patience, skill to pull something like that off, because it would just be this horrific maze of roads where you just get lost after like 10 minutes of walking. Because every street has all the same adverts on. It's kind of crazy. Stick that idea about the big network of motorways. Freeways, as you guys call them in America's America land. It's fucking spelt maintenance stuff. I looked at the spelling. Um, yeah, don't need flying cars. Definitely want biker gangs. Like maybe a Yakuza, I think that's how you spell it. Yakuza in mafia style, organized crime. Like take it from that sort of noir kind of vibe. You like mob run bars, mob run clubs. So very, very seedy. Not, yeah, not a place that the ordinary person goes to unless they're looking for trouble. Obviously, there's normal bars, normal clubs, that people go to. I had a really cool idea for clubs. I have two different kinds. Know what I mean when I've finished attempting to write different. Clubs. You've got your classic. Everyone sits around a bar or sits on tables. Maybe you've got like holograms of strippers or whatever. That's sort of just classic bar. And then you've got your virtual reality club. Like maybe you actually need to go there, but the club itself is just rows of chairs where you plug yourself in, and then you can dance with the girl, you know, row B, column A or something. You'd actually have to be next to her because you know social interaction's hard, guys. Although you can connect remotely, either way, I think that you know these clubs should be in virtual reality. Maybe the virtual reality is kind of replacing how people's social lives in a way. Lots and lots and lots of really cool, interesting ideas. Interesting ideas to explore. What am I missing? What areas of a game of a world that people like? Um, so we have a little bit about what goes on in each of the sort of levels of the city, at least a little bit. Yeah, let's think about the aesthetics. Go back to this themes and tone. Aesthetics. Oh yes, first time. I'm awful. So, oops. When you type cyberpunk into Google Images, there's a big difference of the kind of aesthetics that you get. You've got that sort of very almost like 50s noir, that sort of original, was it 1980 something, when Blade Runner came out. And it's got that sort of feel of I guess it feels a bit like the that sort of 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s kind of era. It's got that sort of same feel. It's the way they dress. It's very sort of normal for our time rather than future. I think I quite like that. I don't know the colorful aspect that you can go down with cyberpunk, with you know the big pink spiky hair and you know half your head being shaved and loads of tattoos and very vibrant, often revealing clothing. I'm not sure. I think I kind of want to mix in both almost. Um, Maybe it's like an age divide or a cultural thing. Maybe it's a class divide. Maybe the upper echelons of society, they live in the past almost. They wear these old style clothing. Um, Perhaps the history of that, maybe um, through war or uh, some extinction level event, some nuclear apocalypse, destroyed these sort of old old ways of life, and the sort of upper society like cling to these relics of a long lost past, and the sort of new societies, design their own stuff. They wear sort of brand new clothes that they've made. Um, so you get these wealthy individuals from the top, sort of wearing those like pinstripe suits, wearing trilbies and fedoras, whatever the difference is. Wearing like big trench coats, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, thinking that they look um, they look wealthy and important, and you get this sort of young, um, don't have very much money. They wear these sort of very vibrant clothing to try and fit in, look look the part, sort of show the upper parts of society that they don't like them. They don't want to be like them. Um, Again, this was a bit like a teenager here. I don't know. It's a thought. Um, but I do kind of like that mix, and it gives a lot of variety for players to sort of pick from and how their character looks. But I think as long as I explain it, it makes sense within the world. I think it won't matter too much. Um, so I'll fill something in later about that one. So let's think. Um, Maybe think of some history. Um, so let's think. I think there should be past wars. There should be human wars, though. It's always a bit cliche, a bit Matrix to have that sort of, oh, it's the AI trying to take over. We gotta, blah blah blah, protect ourselves, blah blah blah. Um, I think there should be human wars. There should be, fighting over resources, um, or like entirely, an accident causing a war, like um, the computer error in the like Soviet missile detection system, which almost caused World War III. Um, we were just one man's decision away from a probably total annihilation of our species. Um, so I need definitely war, past wars. Um, how did this sort of multicultural society exist? Um, is it through the sort of collapse of nations, and sort of intermingling of what's left? Um, maybe this place is maybe this place is, even though it's got these surveillance drones and heavily armed police force, maybe this place is actually relatively the freest society, and everyone tries to get here. Why you've got this multicultural society sort of appearing and growing organically. Um, Maybe you get with the collapse of nation states. Maybe you get the rise of corporate states. You know, the land of Coca-Cola, or the land of Apple. So no one would live there because it's way too much money. Just like 4 hipsters, and the entire place is just a single coffee shop. Um, but I definitely think war should be a big part, and that can also add conflict with maybe the various like cultural, ethnic groups that are now intermingling with SPIRE. Um, there's got to be some kind of reason for the multicultural society. Um, um, hmm. Blanking a bit on history. Just a little bit. Just why I need a line on. Bounce off each other. So, let's explore. Let's make some cybernetics, or explore some mechanical aspects. That's always fun. Um, let's just build it straight into this bit. So I had this visual in my head, this image of people with these sort of like glowing, like subcutaneous, under skin. If you don't know what subcutaneous means, um, like these glowing implants which sort of activate and give off this light as they're being used. Um, Now let's see if I can spell subcutaneous. In the that's not even close. So it was reasonably close. I think I just put an E in the wrong place. I think having someone like reach down to like put their hand on some computer screen or something, have their like entire arm just start glowing, and as they're sort of trying to hack this thing, whatever. I just love that. I love the idea of that. Um, so, um, let's think. I have an actual piece of paper somewhere where I wrote down some ideas for implants. Where it's gone is Lord knows. Could be anywhere. The room isn't exactly tidy. What's this? Oh, sugar. Bits of paper. Could be anything. There we go, implants. Oh, excuse me. I know this is a little bit all over the place, but that's just how my brain works. Right. I think maybe a new document might be useful here. Let's create something. Let's call it box. Let's see. Can you guys see this new document? I think so. One thing I want is to have to give the a little bit more of a gamey feel. I guess is to have different like quality of items. So upgrading isn't necessarily just leveling up your character. You might need to somehow obtain, military level cybernetics to get really powerful, or even just getting like commercial level might be difficult, and require like lots of role play and getting connections and building up a business, or stealing something from somewhere, or emptying people's bank accounts through hacking, that kind of thing. So I definitely want 4 levels. So let's make a table. It's going to be 5 columns, and let's just bunch of rows. So like street level, commercial, military, and then like Black Ops or something. Maybe there should be 5. Like you could put Scrapper in there as worse than Street. I'll stick it in now, for now. Scrapper in there. So let's think about it. Try and organize it into limbs and similar cybernetic ideas. So let's think. So for arms, you've got things. I'm gonna try and fit it all into one thing here, for the sake of keeping it somewhat organized into different limbs. I had to figure some way of making it look nice later. So having, experimental might be a better name. Yeah, I like that. Better than Black Ops. Thank you. So things like just like electric grip, like just grabbing someone, like when you have that prank thing where you shake people's hands and they electrocute them. Something like that, but 10,000 volts or something. So some kind of like electric grip. And you could have some like crushing grip where you grab somebody's shoulder and vice grip it with a mechanical hand. Doesn't require like any kind of extra implants or any upgrades like your spine. You're not like lifting something, so it's just in the hand. You could have like secret like weapon compartments So being able to like have a small pistol or a knife like hidden away in your wrist that could just be put into your hand at a moment's notice. So like maybe like a bit like the Assassin's Creed thing, the hidden blade. Oh, I'll get that out later. Um, Maybe just having something with like a flesh covering, a bit like the iRobot thing, where you just spray paint on this flesh to like blend it in, so it's not obvious that you have this metal arm or metal leg or whatever it is. Um, but that's not specific to arms, so I should just leave it out. You can put tools in there. Yeah, lockpicks. That was you read my mind. Although this is going to be in the future for you, but yeah, I was about to say lockpicks, and you typed it. That's amazing. So yeah, thieves' tools. Bringing it back to 5e, thieves' tools. Tons of different things. Um, so if you want heavy lifting, you have to combine it with other upgrades to your like strengthening your spine, strengthening your legs, so that you can actually lift heavy objects. Because if you just have an arm that is capable of lifting heavy objects, and you try to something, you're just going to snap your spine. Um, you see that quite a lot. People just have these arms and no other upgrade to their body that actually allows them to do these things. Um, so important to actually think about these things. Someone will notice if you don't. Um, let's think about legs for a little bit. Um, I guess with things that like legs, you're just gonna be able to run faster. Um, in general, um, maybe you jump higher. Uh, so I'll just stick those in. Not technically like separate implants, but maybe they're different styles of leg. Um, Again, hidden compartments. You can have like allow them to sort of switch on and off a magnet, which can then stick you to metal objects. Like you could run along walls, run on ceilings, that kind of thing. Sort of that magnetic boot kind of thing. Yeah, Robocop. um, let's think. So, oh, artificial organs. So lungs, you've got you can store air for like breathing underwater. Um, you can filter air, like filtering out all this pollution. Um, maybe um, just maybe allow your lungs to actually breathe in water. Some kind of like gill, artificial gill in. I can't spell, can I? Nope, artificial gill. These things, like, they don't really show up on X-rays or just other kind of scanners, so they're completely hidden, which is another interesting thing. Um, so, like the sort of filtration organs, like the liver, kidneys, and I guess kind of like the bit like the pancreas, I guess as well. Um, so things like filtering out drugs from your system. So it means you could like just keep on drinking alcohol, drinking alcohol, drinking alcohol, and it doesn't even affect you. You can filter out all sorts of things, like maybe filter out like heroin, other makeup, just make up some drugs, like anesthetics, so you could stop yourself from being put to sleep when you don't want to. Um, Filters, just stick those in, so things like livers, maybe even do it straight in the digestive system. Um, I guess they'd be a mixture of both. Um, livers, right. Oh, plural, mate. Plural, Google. Plural. Um, just get rid of it. Plural. So, um, yeah, I think I'd try and like stay at the cybernetics for this sort of lower level. This probably wouldn't even occur at the lower level. It's a bit too high tech. These kind of ones, these would appear at this sort of stage. Um, Things like maybe like a filtration system might happen at these lower levels. Um, but these ones are probably way too high tech. What else we got? Things for eyes. There's always some really cool eyes upgrades for eyes. This is the way you get like your dark vision, your like thermal vision, your like UV vision. These, um, maybe uh, scanners, having like facial recognition in your eyes, like when you're just looking at people, being able to like pick up their like entire history just by looking at and scanning their face with your eye. Um, uh, like like flare compensation, so being able to like shut off your vision and like just quickly, like in the event of a flashbang, just shutting it off, switching it back on, and not having any kind of damage, or maybe like closing up your iris or whatever to not allow much light in, or that kind of thing. Um, changing your retinas, so any kind of like retinal scan will pick you up as someone different. Oh, oh, I'm on fire! It's a flow of information. um, Porting. Um, what do we got? We got ears or thing. Um, so being able to just pick up quiet sounds. Just I'm gonna call that volume for now. I'm not sure how to word that. Listening to broader frequencies. So the really high pitch, the really low pitch, we can't actually hear. Like, oh God. Maybe listening to electronic communications. Um, so like instead of, because maybe so many people have these eye things, you could instead use like white noise, kind of like flashbangs, which try and like break your cybernetics. It's like daze and confusing or whatever. Maybe you could have like noise compensation. like maybe block out the sounds of the street. Streets are loud. Let's think. Yeah, I like that. Like being able to like judge like the sort of like an echolocation kind of thing. Like knowing like which the sort of exact direction and distance of noises would be quite cool. Um, I mean, not quite echolocation. Always involves the mouth as well, but just being able to like listen and like knowing the direction, distance. I like that. I will steal that term. Uh, um, hmm. Oh, definitely some kind of yeah. Actually, I'll just include that within electronic communications. You can to like listen to your own electronic communications and try and listen to other people's. Oh, I thought of another just neat one. The nose. Some kind of like mass spectrometer. I don't know, you would be able to fit that in a nose, but at least try and like detect chemicals. Like you breathe something in, you could say like, "Oh, I detect chloroform or something," and you immediately fall unconscious. You have to like smell, like follow like scent trails like dogs. Would be interesting. Just enhanced smell. We've got loads of ideas already. So let's do some general body modifications. So spinal strengthening. We've got strengthen, some kind of armor like in the skin itself. Quite interesting. Definitely high tech. Like replacing like an entire like layer of your body and like um still allowing blood flow through, and or maybe it's just fake skin entirely and you've just replaced your entire skin with this this armored mesh which you then paint on with flesh to like look normal. Like the sound of that. What else we got? Uh, like a socket for like plugging into virtual reality. Um, mhm, mhm. um, have I considered nanobots? I haven't considered nanobots, but nanobots would be interesting. With like quick healing and stuff like that. I'll stick that in. You have like like have your limbs grown back by nanobots. Um, or maybe using just maybe not quite that extreme. Maybe just using nanobots to like repair your stuff, or um, maybe using them to like sabotage machinery or something, or spy on people. Might be interesting. Um, Second question mark by that one. Um, maybe um, maybe some kind of like I guess it would be an eye eye, possibly brain one, but it's all connected. Some like targeting thing. Like if you were trying to shoot somebody, having your eye like be able to like properly lock on and sort of give you trajectories of your bullet. Whatever, I just put that in the ears section. Give you like range to target, or being able to like just zoom in and out. Zoom. Might be interesting. That'd be cool. What else we got? Maybe you've got your sort of non like mechanical. It's just purely aesthetics. So like tattoos that can change or something, change their form. Maybe yeah, you could people like pay for adverts to be placed on their actual body. Would be interesting. I give this thing interesting a lot. Right, I'm out of ideas at the moment, so I'm going to do something else. How long have I been going on for? Quite a long time, I think. Over almost an hour and a half. Okay, that's fine. I'll keep on going for a little bit. Let's think here. Let's think a bit more about the psionics, if that's the right word for it. It may not be. How would society react to people that have these innate abilities? Probably fear, probably like distrust. Like people can read minds, for example, or look into people's past just with a touch. Like it's going to freak people out. And imagine the sort of corporate science might be very interested in getting their hands on people with these abilities to do tests and try and see if they can replicate it. Is there like try and find like the genetic cause of it or something? How do these people come about? For the moment, I think these three things will be interesting to think about. So my favorite one being precognition and retrocognition. I think retro is the right term for that one. Being able to see into the past and see into the future. Such a cool thing. I think what was the name of that film with oh fuck, I cannot remember that guy's name. Why am I just unable to think of this actor's name? Oh god. Tom Cruise, Jesus. What's the name of that film? Minority Report. It was an interesting film. It explored the sort of idea of pre-crime, like this. I think it was young girls that were able to see into the future, which able to see being people being murdered before it happened. And then these police would go in and like just arrest them before they actually murdered anybody. So technically, a crime hadn't been committed, but they were going to commit it. And then I think the story, like somebody like implanted this vision into like faked a precognition premonition of the Tom Cruise killing someone, so then he ran away and he thought turned out not to be fake, etc. Cool little film. Not the best, but cool ideas. Um, I'm still really hesitant on telekinesis, being able to like just move objects with your mind. I'm not sure why I'm hesitant on that. Seems a little too sort of superpowery. I don't know. Like it in Stranger Things, but yeah, not sure. And telepathy is definitely one I'm looking to include. Um, but if I'm going to have these quote unquote classes to make it 5e compatible, I think having some sort of offensive mechanic which these psychic people can use would probably be appreciated rather than just. I mean, it could just be firearms they can use to get rid of telekinesis. Um, and just focus in on the sort of telepathy and cognitive abilities. Might be better. Maybe leave telekinesis till a later time. Um, especially as like I don't know, being able to like lift a car and throw a car is just yeah, I don't know. This is a mechanic I definitely need to think really hard about is hacking, because I definitely want the ability to be able like to have your cybernetic implant actually hacked. Like maybe the hack only lasts like a round or something. Um, before your sort of like internal antivirus software, your sort of electronic immune system, say, um, gets rid of it. Like, they'll be able to like shut down someone's arm or something so they can't find their weapon, or um, make someone blind by hacking their eyes. Um, or you could shut down someone's lungs or something awful like that, so they just can't breathe. They could be able to like hack someone's cybernetics is a really cool thing. Obviously, using it to just hack normal computers um, is cool as well. But then you've got things like remote hacking. Maybe could it be wireless? Is there some kind of way of preventing this wireless hacking of your cybernetics? Maybe that's where the sort of the street level stuff comes in. It may not be as good, but it can't be hacked. Um, that's sort of like that cost and benefit of having a cheap, shitty arm, but having you be able to use it the entire time, compared to having an amazing, awesome arm, but having the possibility of it not working when you need it to, because some asshole has decided to hack it. I'm going to write that down before I forget that. Just put it in there. So hackable cybernetics. Trying to think of that. Like it's like that Sombra or on Overwatch where she can hack from a distance. Where she's like tapping on a screen that, or like just tapping on buttons, but it just looks cool. Hmm. So this system strain thing, link it maybe to using the D&D 5e thing, Constitution. What's it first time? Link to that. So he limits the not for that first time. Limits the amount of cybernetics you can actually have. Maybe the higher tech that doesn't have as much of as a strain on your body. Like having options. Definitely like having options when I'm playing D&D. Hmm. Let's think a little about what's life like living in this place. It's just a new heading. Everyday life. What is life like living in this city? I think it would depend, I guess, on your social status, your class. Like, are you were you born like street? Were you born in the lower tiers of society? How easy is it to actually move up in terms of class? Like maybe for the sort of lower end of society, maybe it's really hard to actually gain any traction, gain any footing in the next step up. Maybe those that do usually do it through crime, and like become like mob bosses who are wealthy, but they're not like super wealthy compared to corporation CEOs or whatever. I definitely think that this sort of class system is very indented and hard to move between. Um, and those sort of those normal people sort of in the middle um, have their 9 to 5 jobs. I don't think even with the sort of I guess replacement of a lot of work, workers have been replaced by robots, like factory workers almost entirely robots. Maybe there's robotic like cleaners on the streets. Um, so I've got to think of jobs which people can do, still be able to actually like live. That's the really tricky thing. It's something that our society is going to deal with at some point as well. You see it with McDonald's, replacing the sort of like cashier staff with screens that you just order on. It's replaced that minimum wage worker, because it's cheaper to have a robot. Then all you need is someone to flip the burgers. I mean, there's always going to be jobs in building and designing robots, but those require, education skills. Those kind of skills that need years to actually train, especially in the designing aspect. And engineers and scientists are going to be definitely revered, in a way. Like, even with technology as rampant and high as it is, there's still going to be innovations. Like, I'd love to explore, like, just how having this like society where all these sort of mundane jobs are not done by humans anymore, how does that affect people that can't afford education? Do they just live on the streets getting high? Um, do they just disappear off into the virtual world and just eventually die? And that goes back to that overstimulation and addiction that I wanted to explore. Um, um, hmm. So I guess probably a lot of a lot of low skilled jobs would be working in like the service industry, so food, um, like shopping assistants, if those still even exist. I mean, I hope they will do in the future because I really, really, really hate self checkouts. They're a pain. It's always talking about unexpected items in the bagging area when I could just go to a cashier and have it just work fine. So hopefully that those jobs will still be there in the future. So most low skilled workers maybe are in the sort of services. I mean, how much of farming would be mechanized? You still need farmers, I think. I think there was one. Uh, there's some studies going on at the moment, where they're trying to grow crops without the sort of without a human being involved, just having it entirely like remote machine driven, and automated. So maybe farmers are just gonna become irrelevant as machines can just toil away. Um, it's hard to think about the economy when you don't actually understand it. Uh, so maybe there's a lot of unemployment. Um, is there still a welfare state? Um, hmm. It's not very It's, you wouldn't make as much profit if you've got to have taxes to fund a welfare state. Not sure if that would still be part of society. Um, would would you have? I guess you there would be no physical currency. There'd be maybe there's two different currencies. There's the sort of the one that the most rest of society uses, are the ones that the criminals use. Maybe the criminals have their own currency. sort of that they use in between themselves. So they have complete control over how much it's worth. They could have a quote unquote drugs shortage, which they're manufacturing to starve people out of money. Have them try and exchange currencies, and it's that could be interesting. I'll put that in. An idea. Yeah, what does the everyman do? So nightlife. Obviously, the clubs that I was talking about earlier. I used two different types of clubs, like your classic bar with alcohol, dancers, that kind of thing, and then virtual reality. So nightclubs, big thing. Um, and sort of live in the moment culture, rather than sort of thinking ahead, like lots and lots of drug use. They sort of link together. Um, like I'm not sure drugs would even be banned either. I think probably the government would maybe not openly encourage their use, but certainly not condone. Like they wouldn't say anything about it because they want to try and keep the population sort of controlled. So if they're busy, people are busy taking drugs, getting high, they're not going to try and overthrow the government, are they? So I don't think it would be illegal. Uh, or maybe it is illegal, but the police just don't enforce the laws, so they can use it, when it's needed, kind of thing. Like if somebody pisses them off, they can say, "Oh yeah, we're going to get you done for all these drugs that you've been doing." Something the government uses to their advantage. Well, I think I'm getting at least some idea of this world, anyway. What I want to try and do is name these bits of the world, give them names, and that'll then sort of at least somewhat cement their idea. I want to try and create in the coming weeks when I've got some time a setting primer, which I know Mike Piper and Tim and James and Matt have for their worlds. I think possibly Lloyd has got one too. Be cool to get that out. Have something that someone maybe a page long can take and can read and say, "Yeah, I could probably run a game in this world." Even without all this, these extra bits here, these mechanics, they're not as important as the setting itself. Yeah, I think I'd be going on for like over almost 2 hours. So that's probably a good time to stop, I think. I've been going long enough. My head is beginning to hurt. Losing concentration. I'm out of tea. Let me stop sharing this for a second. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. And I will try and, maybe do another one of these at a later stage, or maybe end of the month. We'll see. I'm a busy person. I have a dissertation to write, assignments to do, procrastination to also occur. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.